What a
Patrick, how
collection
are you?
behind you. Look at that. That's great.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for taking the time. It's great to meet you as a fan of yours, and you
Oh,
must be
thanks.
excited to get out there and talk about this one.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so excited that it's, out in the world, coming out to the world.
Yeah, it's a great movie. And to begin with, I'd love to know what was it like for you reading the script for the first time? And what was it that then drew you to this very different take on a book that's from the 1700s?
Yeah, well, I wish I could say I had been familiar with the book at the time. I hadn't. And that was part of what drew me in because I don't know, usually when people are like designing things off of or adapting things from IP, it's some hot title that everybody knows, it's another Frankenstein or something. I don't know, it's something that we've all known. And so to see something adapted from a book I hadn't heard of was already intriguing. Then I read the script before I really did any research on the original book and immediately was charmed. Jose has such a specific point of view, and he's just sort of he's such a magical guy with such a beautiful heart, and that all just kind of came singing through the script and these characters. That made me do more research about the book and become more fascinated about how it was this sort of controversial thing at the end of the Enlightenment. And I thought, wow, that is wild. And wild how Jose had been able to bring a sort of romanticism from that time into a modern world without it feeling kind of ham-handed and over the top. And and then I got to meet Jose, and he's, even better in person. And I was a fan of his work. And then I found out Alison was involved and it's shooting in Canada, and a friend of mine was producing it, who I went to high school with. It was like, it was just, I was like, let's go. What do I do? Sign me up. So luckily they agreed and let me come and play.
Oh, fantastic. And this is a great role and a great character, but how challenging was it for you to make someone, Albert, someone we can relate to, understand, and maybe even root for in this story, rather than having him fall into the trappings of just being the cliched, boring kind of nice guy at home?
Uh, I wish I could tell you it was a real challenge and that my skills as an actor were really put to the test, but what it really was like kind of easy because the script was so beautiful. And like that was part of the gift of it was like he had already created this character on the page that at first I was thought, oh, here comes the spurned fiance who's going to be so angry and hurt and go after Werther. Again, I didn't know the story, and immediately to see that he's charming, loving, he loves Werther as almost as much as she does. He's not interested in pushing him out of their life. He's actually sort of grateful that he's there to make her happier. Like it was just a whole different, very modern spin, which is what's so funny that it comes from this, very old book, but the trope in our modern world would be this guy would be angry and judgmental and do something crazy. And instead he's as lovable in a completely different way than Werther was. So, is that difficult to play? No, not really. It was just sort of fun to not have to be angry or manipulative or trying to hurt anybody. And I like to think that's kind of in line with who I am too. So really, it was just about showing up and being in reaction to these other incredible actors and getting to say these words.
Oh, that's awesome. And you obviously there was an element of your character going toe to toe with obviously Douglas Booth's Werther. So what did you enjoy about working with him as this love rival? You get some great scenes together. There's the shotgun scene, when you take him
Yeah,
shooting and he's just
yeah.
fish out of water. But what did you enjoy about playing back and forth with that?
When you read a script like this and you show up to set, you're just hoping that the other person that they've got is the right kind of person that they're going to want to play, and then they're going to be welcoming and they're going to try new things. And from minute one, it was clear that Doug was that kind of guy. He was passionate. He had lots of great ideas about the character. He understood Jose's point of view, and so he just delivered in every take. We wanted to try new things. We'd love to push each other, give each other ideas. So it was an absolute delight. He was, from the minute I met him, so right in the pocket of who this guy was and clearly understood it and was bringing it to life. And it's not an easy thing to do. I get the script is beautiful, but the words are very specific, and there's a version of the playing of this that's too much, too far, too big. There's some pitfalls when you're playing with language that is a little bit elevated like this is. And he just couldn't have sort of been more in the pocket and understood it more perfectly. And Allison was the same way. And so it was really just about showing up and being in response and reaction to these guys.
Yeah, and you mentioned the dialogue there, and obviously this is a modern interpretation of that now very old book, but I felt like the dialogue is still very meaty, it's very complex. Everything that these characters says, that it has meaning behind it. So as an
Hmm.
actor, to sink your teeth into work like that, it must have been a blast for you in that respect.
Yeah, it's a little spooky. I mean, it was the one thing that I was like, I don't quite know how we do this. Like, it was very elevated language, but set in 2024, obviously. And so it was the one thing that I had never done anything that sounded quite like this. And I was in my head about it when I arrived a bit, just sort of, okay, I'm just going to embrace it and let's see. But I didn't know if it would truly play. And then in the moment, and I kept asking, like, well, how do I do it to Jose? Like, how do you want, like, are we playing? And he was like, just say it. Just like, no, just make it, like, do it. He had no doubt that it was going to be fine. I was like, okay. We did it. And I was like, oh, yeah, that did come out pretty easily. But I still, in the back of my head, thought, I don't know. I feel like in the other people watching it, it's going to feel a little weird. And then finally saw it, and it works beautifully. And it's a real lesson in, like, if you ground something and you speak from the heart and speak honestly, it can be as elevated as Shakespeare or something like this, or something very basic and, modern and stripped down. And as long as it's honest and real, then people are going to believe it.
Yeah, and Suits was a very iconic role of yours. Obviously, a very different character to Albert, but when a project like this comes your way and you see it's a lawyer, does that ever give you pause for thought, or do you like
No, I
actually
mean, a
going back
lawyer
to
is a
that?
job, right? So it is funny that I end up playing so many lawyers, but uh, yeah, in this case, it was like it could have been anything, really. I mean, he could have worked in finance, or I don't know. Like, it's while it's sort of important to the plot of this film, sort of, not really. His role as a lawyer is not really the point. Now, would I go maybe do a whole other television show where I was working at a law firm? I probably wouldn't. But in this case, it felt like different enough that it was still interesting to me.
Yeah, of course. And while I've got you another role of yours, I loved it. It was a brief one, but obviously you showed up in Legends of Tomorrow as Hourman. You got to
Oh
suit
yeah,
the
my
DC
one comic
superhero.
book adventure. Yes.
Yeah, how do you look back at that? And would you ever go back to that world?
Uh, how do I look back at that? It was so quick, and
Hmm.
I don't know what. I mean, I was there and then I wasn't there, and I don't quite know what happened. It was really fun. To put on those outfits and to be around people in those outfits and to be on those sets and playing talk about big stakes, like some epic battle happening outside your spaceship. All that's really, really fun, and you get to go deep into imagination. So of course would love to do more of that. I was not familiar with Our Man, so I also loved getting to learn more about that. But yeah, no, of course, more than open. I'd love to have a figurine behind you sometime.
Added to the collection. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
exactly.
mean, great to hear that. But back to this one, you mentioned Alison before, and she's fantastic in this
The
film.
best.
And the dynamic between Albert and Charlotte is so interesting, so complex. So to work with her and to develop that relationship, to like you said, to avoid those trappings of him being the angry, jealous fiance. What did you enjoy about that experience with her?
I mean, you can't not enjoy an experience with Allison. She's one of those actors that comes so full and prepared with ideas, and she's in the moment, and you're just getting to just play with each other, try different things, try it this way. In between takes, she's so fun, and yeah, she's a dream to work with. And it was a big reason of me wanting to do this. If anything, I wanted more of it. It was hard to be the sort of distant, not fully engaging partner to her Charlotte, because all I really wanted to do, Patrick, the actor, was engage fully all the time, hang out with her, shoot more scenes. Who cares about work? But so yeah, I loved it. She's one of those actors where you just show up to work and be in total reaction to her, and something interesting is going to happen.
Yeah, well, the result of that was fantastic. Like I said, Patrick, I
Thank you.
had a great time watching this film. I thought you were fantastic in it, and I can't wait for people to check it out later this month. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks, Josh. Have a good day.
You too. Pleasure speaking to you.